I remember on a work side, I think it's like you were saying earlier about this sort of level of guilt. I don't know, it sounds awful to say, but when I was found out I was pregnant, part of me is like, when I'm having that conversation with my boss, there's a level of guilt there. I'm thinking, oh, okay, now I'm going to have to take a big sort of chunk of time out of work. Then this time round, when we started thinking about shared parental leave, it kind of, that level of guilt then was reduced, because I remember thinking, oh well, I'll be back sooner this time round. But then there was constantly then this whole motherhood and my time with my newborn. I just remember the two sort of things being sort of contradictory to each other. So I was worried about, as I said before, that I would spend less time with Luca, and having to leave him early. I just thought, how would that actually be in practice? And I was worried that it would, as a mother, having this sort of, it's always going to be hard to have, to leave your child in the early days.
I think there'd always be something. I think if I'd gone back to work earlier, maybe I would have felt guilty about not having spent, a longer period of time with Eleni. Because I spent this longer period of time with Eleni, then I, sometimes, I know, for some women going back to work as well, you may well think, have I missed out on opportunities to be promoted, for example? I've been out of work for this long, so in terms of training opportunities, a variety of these things, has this industry moved forward, and I've not been upskilling myself. So there are kind of pros and cons on either side.
I was pleased with how work brought me back in. There's a natural anxiety that perhaps we're a little bit out of sight, out of mind, but no, we didn't really have any of that as well. My work made good use of sort of keeping in touch days. They treated me the same as they would have treated somebody on maternity leave. So I would go in, sometimes me and Rowan would go in for a couple of hours, spend some time with my manager, find out what's going on, get any advice from me or from him as to a couple of work issues that might have needed my thoughts on. And then it made it so much easier just going back and transitioning in. But of course, he's off at childminder, and that's at the back of your mind. But generally, it was okay. It worked quite well. We were quite happy.
I spoke to my employer about how we were going to work out my working arrangements, and again, I'm fortunate that my employer offers a range of flexible working, and one of those is compressed hours, where I'm able to work. I do 4 long days, so I work my 5 days in 4, and so I do 4 long days, which enables me to have 1 day at home, and where I looked after Cassiana, and now it will be Luca.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because, and we couldn't have had a better arrangement, because you have Wednesdays with the kids, I have Fridays with the kids, and the rest of the time in nursery. I think everyone has said that wow, what a great arrangement, and we don't have friends and family to rely on for childcare, so we work it between us, and that's been a great, I think, solution.
So I think it would have been difficult to do everything that we needed to do without actually having that. It works perfectly for us, and enables me to have you have a different relationship with my daughter, because I had a whole day with her, to go swimming, go to the park, do anything on a Wednesday.
I was doing home working on a Friday, which really helps because it made the week shorter. So even though I was still working, I was at home. I didn't have to travel into central London. At my lunch break, I can pop in and see what they're doing and help out a little bit. And obviously, when you finish work at 4 or 5 o'clock, you're at home already, so you have more time to spend with the family in the evening. And I think that made a really big difference, actually, at the early stages, just that flexibility. And I think I was quite lucky where with my work, if I come in a bit later, I can stay a bit later. It's flexible every day, and that helps, because obviously at the beginning you don't get much sleep. You're quite tired, and some days you just think, oh my god, I just need to stay in bed for a bit longer and get to work at 9:30 or 10. And I was really lucky that was fine, and I could just make it up in the evening or the day after or something like that. So I did that for about a year, pretty much a year, I think it was. And then I changed to compressed hours. So when Snelly went back to work, I was doing a full-time week over 4 days. So I wasn't actually working on a Friday at all. And that would be my day with Eleni. And that was fantastic because it just meant that I had a long weekend. So even though it was quite intense for those 4 days, it's really long and tiring, it's worth it because then you get to recuperate, you get to spend real quality family time as well. Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I did that for a little while and I'm still doing that.
Even in terms of the other things that it will do, from the changing and a variety of other things, people just like, you do that as a dad, you know, which for us, careful, it's just so natural and just normal to us, and that again is what's helped me as a mum, you know, ensure that, you know, I'm you know, holistically a lot more kind of well-rounded and balanced and able to pursue the things that I want to do, and for Elliot as well, just in that involvement in Eleni's growth and development as well. They have this bond with one another, and for me that's been a great relief.
We've got family not far but not close enough to help us with sort of like any sort of emergency childcare cover.
We've both been in positions where we've come home from work to pick him up. One or the other of us. It just depends on who's doing it.
What we tend to do normally, what we found is where we can see that perhaps he's got a temperature and we think, oh, this might mean he has to be home for a couple of days, or he's not going to be well, we will sort of look and see what we can do. Like you say, if you've got, because of your job, sometimes you do have to travel, and so that might mean that certain days aren't so good for you. Same for me, I might have some meetings or something, which means that it's a bit harder for me to work.
You have particularly weeks in the month, don't you, which are more you know, business critical, I guess you'd say, than others.
But there's always certain things, and I think some of what we tend to do is just look ahead, don't we, and try to work out what's best. But it's never a situation of it's going to fall to one of us or the other. It's more of a case of what's the right thing.
I think it's given us a bigger perspective around life and around each other. You know, we both work very hard, and I think for years have probably been doing that, perhaps to a certain degree to the detriment of spending time together, and you know, you'd work late because we need to work late, and you'd put the extra hours in things. Having Rowan, it gives you a sense of perspective a little bit more. You know, it's forced us to, because you actually you have to be there to pick him up at that time, and you learn that lesson very early on. But it's given us, I think, a more rounded sort of view on who we are as a family now. It's interesting. I think it's just going to take time for the culture to change and the mindset to change, and kind of going on to what we said, you know, people of our age, perhaps, maybe not us, I don't know, but people of our age are going to be the next chief executives and MDs of companies and things, and we'll probably be the first generation to see the idea of shared parental leave and dads taking time off, extended time off, as being a normal thing and not something to be held against anybody. And then for someone like Rowan coming up as the next generation, hopefully you see that as just entirely normal.